Good morning and welcome back to Tame Bay Live. I'm really excited about this session because we've got two retailers joining us. First of all, however, we're welcoming back Zarina from Alibaba, but we're also being joined by Louise from T-Pigs and Benji from Vitabiotics. And we're going to be looking at some reflections on the 11/11 Global Shopping Festival, how UK brands performed during the festival in terms of a first-time launch in China, and also learnings from brands that have been present in the China market for a little bit longer, a greater period of time. So if you're a brand and you're interested in launching in China, congratulations, you're in the right place to find out from retailers that have been there, done it, and got the t-shirt, as it were. So without further ado, welcome Zarina, Benji and Louise, and thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Chris. Welcome everybody to the second session with me, if you were on the session before, and to those of you that weren't, nice to meet you all. So I lead business development for Tmall Global, focusing on health and food and beverage brands. And I'm really pleased to welcome two of our customers to today's session. So I would like them to please introduce themselves. We've got Louise and Benji, whichever one of you would like to start.
I'll go first. So I'm Louise, I'm the founder of T-Pigs, and we've been in China for about 10 years.
Hey, nice. Hello, I'm Benji, and I'm Director of China and South Asia at Vitabiotics, UK's #1 vitamins company. We started in China from zero about 7 years ago, growing to about 40 mil US retail value business a year in 2021.
Great. So for the audience's benefit, Louise, Benji and I have known each other for about 3 years. So pre-pandemic, we have actually met in person. So it's not just a virtual relationship here. So today we're going to look at how to enter and succeed in China. So really a step-by-step process to really understand what it takes and what it will be like for when you get there. So we've got a few questions that I'm going to ask Louise and Benji to answer. So let's get started. So Louise, maybe I'm going to start with you. How and when did you decide that China was the right direction for your business? And sort of what first steps did you take to get started? Who did you speak to? And what did your initial research look like in those first 3 to 6 months?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of want to say that this was part of a really concrete plan. We did loads of research and we really thought about it and spent a long time writing strategy. We absolutely didn't. We got approached by a distributor to sell in China, and it wasn't top on our priority list. So 15 years ago, launching T-Pigs, the focus was still very much the UK, and 5 years in, it was still the UK, and we were looking at a US operation as well. So China was quite low down on the priority list, but this opportunity arose working with a distributor, and they had a very good knowledge of the market, and also the two founders of that distribution business were English, so they also had an insight into which brands would be relevant for the China market. So all we did at that stage was very much hand the stock to them and let them get on with it. And I think the change for us has really been in the last 3 years with getting to know Alibaba and you, predominantly Zarina, and actually then started to think about China more seriously. And I think had we done that at the beginning, our approach might have been slightly different. So we did, I think we now have somebody who heads up the China operation, so actually putting people focused on it. And we're continuing to work with the distributor, but looking at the Tmall part of it as being the lead part of it, as opposed to when we were just selling stock to them, it was very much replicating the model we've done in the UK. And I think that, that's a really important learning, is to do the research and really understand the China market and how that consumer is going to purchase your product. And I think we've done that much more in the last 3 years, understanding through the Tmall partnership how the consumer purchases, what's that journey, how are they going to find out about the product, and approaching that completely differently, particularly in the last 12 to 18 months, where we focused very much on our online presence rather than just on our offline presence, and getting into cafes and restaurants and doing what we've done in the UK. So yeah, I'd like to say there was a big strategy plan, but really that came much later after we'd tested the waters.
Yeah, well, actually, one of the top tips that I quite often give is test and learn. You can spend a lot of time researching, but you really need to do it to figure out what's going on. Cool. Benji, same question to you. When did Vitabiotics decide that China was the right direction for the business? And, with your 2 stores, when did you decide to ramp up China, and what research did you do?
Yeah, so we started about 7 years ago. We had some latent demand from wholesalers going either through our own e-coms or different distributors in the UK. We looked at China as the global #1 supplements market, and it was certainly on that trajectory 7 years ago. And we looked at our position as the UK's #1 supplements brand. Put 2 and 2 together. We didn't do an intense amount of research. I think that was enough. It was enough of an attractive proposition for us, to be really honest. We felt we had a product that was good fit for market. We had a lot of traction on pregnant care internationally, and we decided to enter with a mother-baby category store, basically just taking that SKU, pregnant care, alongside supporting product like Osteocare and Well Baby and Well Kids. It was the hottest category on Tmall and in China at the time, mother and baby. And that's how we entered the market. You mentioned we've subsequently now gone on in the last couple of years to launch a healthcare store. So that's allowed us to bring our wider portfolio of product, like the Well Man's, the Well Women's, the Vision Aces, Ferroglobins of the world into China. And we've then subsequently gone on and opened a beauty store for Perfecto, UK's #1 beauty supplement. So we've definitely taken this multiple category approach. And I think it's interesting listening to Louise that we've kind of done it the opposite way round. We've only done online and only done cross-border because the regulations around domestic blue hat application and general trade and offline retail for vitamins are so stringent. So our proof of concept has very much been launching on Tmall, growing the cross-border business. Even the wholesale side of the business is cross-border wholesale distributors, licensed to selling cross-border resellers, etc. So that's our proof of concept. And then our next step would be to get the registrations over the line and look at general trade and offline retail and Tmall.com and all those exciting things. But no, I think a key learning is just, I agree with Louise completely. You just got to get in the market and it moves relatively quickly. You can get stuck in analysis paralysis with these kind of decisions. So just test and learn, be in, and you're going to have to keep adapting and making mistakes when you're in market anyway. So you might as well get in at some point if you're serious about it.
Yeah. So just to sort of, get into the barriers really that might have come up when you were looking. Obviously, there were positives and negatives. What were the negatives that you saw to going into China, Louise, and which were the positives that helped to outweigh them, make you make that decision to go for it?
I think the fact that we did it with a distributor, we didn't really see the negatives at that stage. I think they held our hand through that process, and I think we were fortunate in that things like the customs regulations that Benji's referring to they are real challenges, and actually having a distributor partner help us through that meant that we didn't feel the pain quite as much as we could have done. And I think those things have cropped up later. The pain has been around shipping and customs and logistics, and actually once you can get over that hurdle, and I think the partnership working with Tmall has led us to think, well, this is no different to how we use marketplaces in the UK and how we sell online in the UK, and we can apply a lot of that learning. It's the logistics element of it which are the barriers, and it's making sure that you invest time in doing that and working out, what are those challenges. And I think we landed on our feet without having a distributor partner to do that. But they are things that is worth investing time and effort into stopping that.
Perfect. Benji, I'm going to give this next question to you because, like you just mentioned, you're doing it for the third time. Can you walk the audience through the step-by-step process of setting up a Tmall global flagship store? So where does that journey lead you from talking to Alibaba, researching, talking to other brands, finding a partner, planning sales, prepping stock, managing logistics, content, all of those things? What's that process? How does it look?
Yeah, great question. So initially talking to Alibaba, maybe looking at some other brands and some blueprints that already exist in China, and Alibaba category leads maybe will be based in your country, certainly in the UK, obviously. So you can speak about the market size and some market research and some kind of traffic and have a general sense from the category manager potentially, and then you would speak to Alibaba about finding a TP. So that is a trade partner or a third party. They have approved whitelists of different TPs, and there's an indexing, there's a ranking system for those different TPs. And that TP will effectively function as your business development partner in those early stages. So they will be...
Just to interject here, this could be a trade partner or it could be a distributor like Louise has at T-Pigs. So it could be either.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It comes down to whether the brand wants to run their flagship store themselves, which is our decision. So we held stock on consignment at brand risk to run that store, and we just serviced out the management of that store to a TP. But yeah, absolutely, of course, could be for a distributor purchasing in the UK and doing everything as Louise was describing. So yeah, then from that list, you'll look into different TPs. So that's where you start having conversation around what similar case studies do they have? Can they demonstrate clear projections, volumes? Have they got a vision for building a sustainable brand? It's not necessarily just GMV led, selling a lot of product cheap. It's, well, how can we build brand equity over time? And can you showcase that in some of your other case studies? And are you loyal to this sector and this type of brands? But the Tmall whitelist goes a long way in terms of the ranking system they've established and based on really positive use cases on Tmall. Then the next step would be looking at sales planning. So what products you're going to enter with. In our case, it was very limited product. I think in hindsight, we probably I think it was the right decision to focus on pregnant care at that time, but I think we should have invested more in healthcare 7 years ago. Actually, that's one key learning. So I think we wanted to mitigate risk, and the investment was quite high because we were doing it all ourselves. And pregnant care was giving back. We were seeing quite strong ROI on those lines quite quickly. But I think in hindsight, maybe we would have tried to invest more across our portfolio 7 years ago rather than waiting, into the last 2 years to get to that stage. But that's the sales planning part. And that's where the TP or distributor should hopefully be doing that research into what's going to be a good fit for market, what kind of volumes they think are realistic. And then stock preparation. So you're looking at production runs. How is the stock for China prioritized internally? For example, are you putting a different code on the product? Are you doing a specific production run on the product? And then you start looking at content for your Tmall global flagship store. So for us, Tmall was very much a premium shopping mall. It was our first channel in China. And all of the traffic we were driving was going to that one channel because we could say, this is our brand flagship store. This is run by Vitabiotics, owned by Vitabiotics, price approved by Vitabiotics. And therefore the content would also be approved by Vitabiotics. So then many brands take an agency in that initial step to support. Some TPs offer those marketing agency services, or others go for dedicated services specializing in different channels. And trying to navigate the Chinese ecosystem can be quite complex in terms of its completely different digital space: Weibo, WeChat, Baidu, Jihu forums. So you need I would suggest a very good agency to plug in. And yeah, then you start looking at media buys in platform, off platform, and building the brand with content. And so I hope that answers your question kind of succinctly.
Yeah, it does. And obviously you both have different roles. So for you, Benji, how involved do you get in the day-to-day running of the store? Like, what does your typical day look like when you're managing China business?
Yeah, I get quite involved. I mean, look, we've I think our CEO has always wanted to have like a director of China in the UK that sits on top of it. So it's UK side, and you've got that nice middle way, a foot in both sides of the bit logistics and the HQ side and the China operational side. So a typical day would be, well, we're looking at different, they're reporting to me the allocation of budget, for example. So we're looking at what channels within Tmall we are spending on. Is it a diamond banner? Is it a special product recommendation? Is it a search access, indexing of your brand name or your sub brand names? Is it live streamers? Is it selling through more flash sale models? So you're looking at like the allocation of that budget. And then you're monitoring your ROI. The great thing about e-commerce is you can really accurately monitor ROI against both your gross merchandise volume and your net merchandise volume. So there's a lot of that. And then it's, well, we're quite lucky. We've got a team on the ground, like 15 people. So we've got, design, we plug into that system. So we've got designers, media managers, operational managers. And it's just kind of managing those different moving parts that support the outsourcing of the store, and then where applicable, the in-house management of the store. So it's quite a complex question, but it's trying to balance those two different needs. To what degree are you outsourcing, and to what degree are you controlling in-house? I think it's quite a good question for brands to ask themselves at a certain stage in China. But for brands just entering it, that's not the right question. It's, well, you should probably just be outsourcing it all if you're going down that e-commerce route, because, well, you don't have to. Don't want to put words in anyone's mouth, but it's what we did. Just my humble perspective.
Yeah. So yeah, you're very much in the detail. Louise, in your role, obviously as founder of T-Pigs, you're overseeing many, many different balls, juggling all the time. What does your typical day look like in relation to China?
Yeah, in relation to China, not so heavily involved. So Emma, who looks after the China business, is much more kind of doing what Benji's doing and talking to the team in China and approving content on a daily basis and checking promotions that have gone through and making sure we've got the right products for all of the activity that we're going to be doing. And because we have been focused over the last 12 months on driving those sales, and we have actually a separate marketing agency doing the online activity, and we've really wanted it to work. So we kind of we have a monthly review with them to look at, how's that month gone, the same as we would any other area of the business. And I think, I think just going back to the previous question, I can't reiterate enough how useful it was when we were introduced to other brands in China and understanding how they've done it, because I think I felt going into it overwhelmed by the number of different options and feeling like there are so many different ways that you could approach China. The more that you gather information through the networks that you shared with us and the contacts, and going to those Alibaba events and meeting people and saying, well, how did you approach this? And we were in it already, and we'd done that test and learn phase. So how are we going to grow it? And growing that the right way in the last 12 to 18 months has been through learning from those networks and kind of, even just the terminology. It takes a while to get to grips with the terminology, and, that actually trying to then set up the structure for the future and having that vision to say, okay, well, we're going to do China properly eventually, and we'll have a WFI, and how is that going to work? And how does that work with the various distributor partners? And the more people you talk to, the more useful that is. So just, touching back a question, but I think that is kind of a really useful point to reiterate.
Yeah. And I think both of you spoke to brands from different categories as well, because quite often when a brand will come to me, they'll say, which other UK brands from vitamins world are selling with you? But actually, there's a lot of value in looking at different categories or different countries as well, because when you team more global, it's not just UK brands you're competing against, you're competing against the whole world. Yeah. So there are really brilliant case studies from various countries.
just one thing I'd add, if you don't mind. Like, I think it was a really important step to put an operation manager in. So a lot of what I was describing, I can now step back from. I can bird's eye that and have someone on the ground who is actually embedded in the same office, manually checking in real time everything that we're doing. And then I've created that system whereby she can just report straight to me on like approval basis. So I think that's really sped up the actual operational efficiency of VB in China.
Having someone on the ground in the same time zone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it wouldn't be impossible for someone in the UK to do that in real time. So absolutely.
Cool. So Louise, looking back on the initial phase, what were some of the misconceptions that you had that were dispelled once you actually got into China and launched?
Yeah, I think we just, export. It sounds like this was a complete shambles. It wasn't a shambles. We did have a plan, but I think we very much thought, we've learned these from, UK is a massive tea drinking country, and actually we can go out and we can just give everybody else what we do here. And China being, they're going to drink the same tea that we drink. Of course, they're not going to drink the same tea that we drink. We go out there and we offer, black teas with milk, green tea. They're just, in the way that we would drink green tea, is totally different. And domestically, they're not going to be interested in that. So
I touched in my last one about your chocolate flake tea.
Yeah, it's nuts, isn't it? So a tea which we struggle to sell here, black tea and chocolate, everybody wants really that to taste like hot chocolate, but in the Chinese market that's worked really well. And sweet variants, so we have a Rooibos creme caramel, and it's not our top seller here, but in China sells really, really well. And so actually those kind of quirkier and adding a complete, we've got to add value. We can't, and Benji and I were joking about selling tea to the Chinese is just ridiculous. So, you've got to add some value there with some kind of flavors which are more interesting. And I think also in terms of content, we had assumed, we can use the same marketing calendar, we can use the same content that we're generating here, and actually how bland that content is in the Chinese market. And there's not enough information. There's just not, everything that we run a D2C site here, which is quite successful, and we run Amazon here. And we thought we can just lift that content and apply it over there. Absolutely not. We really needed a lot more information than we had previously. So I think there is a couple of things there, is just really looking at the product range and how appropriate that is, and then the information that you're giving to the consumer, give them a lot more video and a lot more photography than we had here.
Brilliant, thank you. Same question to you, Benji. What were some of the misconceptions you had that were dispelled once you got into China?
I think speed. I think I was quite lucky in that I lived in Shanghai for 4 years. So some of these misconceptions were quite abruptly dispelled when I lived there. I.e., working.
It's more towards the wider Vitabiotics team, who experience.
Well, no, I think that's the point I'm getting to. I think, like, once you've experienced China speed and you've worked in those kind of high octane e-commerce agency environments, blah blah blah, coming back to the UK can be a bit of a shift. And you quite vividly experience the disparity between the UK speed and the China speed, and that's tricky. And frustrations can arise because the Chinese just cannot understand why something is not done quicker. That's not in their mindset. The work ethic is so phenomenal in China as well. So speed was a sharp learning curve, and we've had to adapt. And I think the only way to do that is to have CEO level prioritization of the China business. Very lucky that our CEO Tej has really supported us throughout this whole endeavor. And then I'd say a blend of brand Britain and localization is a key learning. So we just tried, like Louise was saying, we did just try and copy paste initially. But then when we started moving into, we created some local IP, like a tawny owl character. It's quite cute, actually. He's called Little V, Xiao V. and he sits alongside some of the products. I like him. And there's little dolls of him and stuff now. He's really cute. So we did that. We did like Chinese brushstroke style paintings of iconic like British scenes like Clifton Suspension Bridge with Chinese travellers pictured in them, and we created these like postcard series. So we did special things for China, just special coupons, obviously all the obvious things like special coupons, t-shirts, and gifts, and exclusive ideas and links. And but the more we've done that, the more we think we've been able to resonate with the consumer and add real value, whilst retaining this kind of British identity, which is key. Which is key to us. So it's a hybrid, it's a blend, it's more subtle than just stamping Brand Britain over what you do.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really valid point. And that sort of eats into the next question, which I'm going to share back now to Louise, about how did you optimize and accelerate in China, and how did that look from a commercial and a marketing perspective? I know you in particular did quite a lot of offline events and partnerships in China to sort of more deeply ingrain with the consumers.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was kind of one of the learnings from the UK, is just, partnership, and being, the team out there have managed to kind of get associations with Tesla and Lululemon and those other growing brands in the market, which have been really useful. Doing offline events, so we do a tea school in the UK, which consumers come to and become kind of brand advocates. So we have very much replicated that in China. And so those offline things have been really important, but I think the step change for Tmall growth for us was actually the online activity and having an agency focusing on that, because the offline activity will only go so far, and really backing that up with a strategy that goes across promotions and making sure that we're on all the social media platforms and they're active and consistent, joined up with continuing to do those partnerships. I think that the two things together have been really successful in the last 12 months, and that's kind of seen us do 150% year-on-year growth. So and I think that is the step change for us, but commercial viability of it needs some optimizing. So I think we wanted to really see, is this going to work? So to get behind it and really prioritize China as a market, we were prepared to invest in it, but we need to see that grow even further this year to actually make it long-term viable. So there's still some work to do on that, but I think a bit of investment into the market to really get behind it is certainly what you need to do.
Yeah. And would you have done anything differently if you'd had your time again?
Yeah, we definitely would have lent into Alibaba sooner than we had. I think there is an amazing...
I'm prepared to say that as well.
Yeah, I know. But I do think that you guys, it's in your interest, isn't it, for the brands to do well. So, there's no reason to fight that. Just absorb it and use all of the resources that you guys have and offer, and take that on board as part of the China strategy from day one. And I think that's what we've done over the last 2 to 3 years, and that's what's starting to make the difference. And then we've used other resources like CBBC to do some research work for us. I think like Benji, we still haven't done huge amounts of research, because we like to see the data that we can get from Tmall. The answers are there, so you don't need to research the heck out of it. You just need to get your products there and get started and see if it works, and then invest behind it. So yeah, I agree with you on your kind of test and learn strategy, but the resources that Alibaba have are definitely something which, had we taken that opportunity up sooner, I think we would have grown significantly quicker.
Good to hear. Benji, same question to you, although you're doing it for the third time right now. What would you do differently, other than obviously, bring your health products in much earlier stage, like you mentioned before, but what other things would you do?
Yeah, I think it really depends on the brand, doesn't it? I think one of the things that drew me to Vita was that it's quite a big but disparate portfolio. So that's why the 3 stores works for us, because then you can optimize by category and you can build relationships with each category manager. And you can really segment the sub-branding in terms of and the media buy strategy and everything that goes along with that. I think really deeply understanding that by building on Tmall, you do grow wholesale distribution. This is what we found by indexing, by improving your search access, your comments, your reviews, your sales volumes, which are all publicly available for brands to constantly check against each other, which is quite a nice motivator, really. That has driven wholesale distribution growth for us, CBC wholesale distribution. I personally, I think holding stock on consignment and the brand taking the risk for us was the right decision. So I think I would say don't be afraid of that. Don't be afraid of taking some risk on brand consigned stock. What was the question exactly? Optimizing and accelerating.
What would you do differently in year one if you entered again?
Sorry, I didn't sleep very well last night. The key thing for us would be putting more SKU in quicker, and maybe trying to subdivide into these multiple category stores straight off the bat. And if possible, I think we would have taken a team quicker as well, because it's been a real game changer for us having this team's plug in, who live and breathe this and really care about this, and their KPIs are directly attached to it and their commissions are directly attached to it. That's been a game changer.
I think that's actually ties in very closely and nicely to what you said earlier as well. At Vitabiotics, you've got CEO approval and on board supporting it, but then you've also got direct KPIs relating to the performance of the stores, and it really does need that holistic commitment to China to make it successful.
A lot of British brands, it's quite alien to give commission based on sales growth. Like, oh, you got a fixed salary. That's what you do. It's what you're paid to do. In China, it doesn't work like that. They need commission based on sales growth. Otherwise, they'll just go to a more competitive company that are going to offer that. So you really have to, that's the other thing, compartmentalize. Find someone who can sit in that space and by necessity do things differently to cater for the needs of that market. And if you can't do that, I think that's the key reason why brands have to pull out of China. They don't adapt. They don't adapt enough to this different mindset, which actually, when you get into it, is really inspiring and is really logical. And spending a time on the ground will that starts to seep in, and it makes sense. And when that clicks, you can really see, okay, so British brands can become $100 million businesses a year. It's actually possible. And I think that is incredibly inspiring as a vision. And I just truly believe it's possible.
That's a brilliant answer. I just want to highlight to the audience the company that Louise mentioned, CBBC, the China Britain Business Council. We work very closely with them. They're an invaluable resource for brands to give general China overview before and when you enter. So anyone that comes and speaks to us, we can introduce you to them to give extra support. Next question, I want to talk about shopping festivals. Alibaba is most famously known for 11.11 Global Shopping Festival, which takes place every November, but has a tremendous build-up in terms of effort that is required from brand to seed from a good sort of 4 or 5 months before, but also consumers get very excited about for quite some time beforehand. So Louise, can you share your experience of shopping festivals in China and how that translates for you at T-Pigs on an individual brand level?
Yeah, I don't think we've delivered the best 11.11 yet. So I think this year will be hopefully our best 11.11. I think the build up to it is kind of the bit that we need to get right. And I don't think we've invested enough in the right product for that festival. More exclusives, more packaging that looks different, and offers which are really tailored to that festival. I think where we've seen success is some of the smaller festivals. So actually, as we sort of learned from 11.11, then doing 12.12, we were like, okay, well, we need to approach this slightly differently. So I think being aware there are other festivals, but as you say, being aware that there is a 4 to 5 month lead up to it. So start thinking about it right now for this 11.11, and I think hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll get that right this year with having the right product and the right offering and securing those promotions and making sure our visibility is. It's a competitive time. There are a lot of brands fighting for that space, and yeah, you're right, there's a lot of interest, but there are also other festivals to take advantage of. So I think making sure that that marketing calendar is correct from the start of the year, and knowing which festivals are you getting involved with which products, with which promotions, and giving yourself enough time to execute all of those well. And I think, hands up, we haven't done it the best we could possibly do it, and hopefully, we've learned from that, and that over the next 12 months that will improve.
And this will be your third?
This will be our third, so third time, get it right.
Third time, get it right.
Yeah.
We look forward to November the 12th. Benji, for you, what's the Vitabiotics experience of 11/11 and all the other global shopping festivals? Because Louise has just raised a really important point. It's not just about discounting. It's special products, it's different packaging, it's curated bundles. It's getting something exclusive on that day that you can't find on another day of the year.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's a super exciting event. I mean, 618 is also huge in June, and International Women's Day in March is really big for us, actually, with the mother baby lines particularly. So yeah, no, I think you've said a few of the key things I was going to say about bundles, offers, and in those bundles introducing new product potentially. It's a really interesting time to swip and swap different lines in and out, and because Double 11 is done over phases, you can use these different phases in different ways. So different types of consumers shopping for different things will come in different phases if you vary the offerings. So that's really interesting. So yeah, just trying new things is really exciting. Creatives is really exciting around that period as well. Stock planning, 4 to 5 months, absolutely. You need to be stockpiling in advance, because a lot of brands I've spoken to personally have really, particularly with shipping issues at the moment and delays, they haven't quite got the stockpiling right. And that, I think the best way to get around that is just over the whole year, providing your shelf life percentages are okay, just accrue a little bit more, so you can meet. I mean, 618 June is not far off if you're looking at a 3-month lead time. So right now, I would recommend brands, if they can, just start accruing more every month of the lines they're going to be focusing on. But they're really exciting events, and they're nice. The whole your teams really come together around them, and we've kind of started like an award ceremony. So we create different like labeled awards for our partners, and they get competitive with each other because we have different partners on the different stores. So best performance, best growth, best individual growth, and that's a bigger. I find actually that's a bigger motivator than money. People love it. I think people really love to be recognised and validated for their work on that personal level. So I think it's given us this opportunity to create that ecosystem, and new product development. We're knocking on that door at the moment. I don't know if we're going to be able to get it done in time, but yeah, it's a great time to put something brand new to market in, or put it in just before, with some run up to the period, and then get a good price going for it on the day itself. But it's really exciting, and I kind of love it. Like, I love the gala. It's just so exciting. It's e-commerce on a scale that you won't see anywhere on the planet. It is absolutely fascinating as a cultural and societal phenomenon as much as anything. It's a bit like, I remember saying to a friend, it's like you're in a massive bazaar, like a market, and it's screaming, and everyone's just shouting. And you've got your little stall, and you're quite humble because you're just a little stall, but it feels great to be in this like cacophony, and that's how I feel about Double 11.
Yeah, it really is a fully immersive experience. So my last question is, what are your 3 key pieces of advice for brands who are watching today who are considering to enter China? Benji, what are your top 3 pieces?
Oh, constantly reconsidering these. So my first one, and I really learnt this, I think, in the last couple of years more than ever, like, leave your ego at the door a bit, because China is very humbling, and we might be the UK's #1 vitamins company, but we are certainly not China's #1 vitamins company. We are a small fish in China, and I think it's important to remember that, because then you're open-minded to what your competitors are doing, to what your Chinese competitors are doing as well, and you're very willing to learn and look at things from that perspective of, do you know what, they might just be doing that better than me, and actually I've found they often are doing that better than us. So I think that's actually really important, and to be able to say that is important. And then I think there's space for everyone. So I think what's really interesting about China is British brands do come together. You know, I have experience myself of doing things in cohorts with other health and wellness brands, you know, like Holland and Barrett and Root Health and whole bunches of them. So that's really lovely that brands come together who in some ways are competitors, but they have a common goal of promoting brand Britain or health and wellness and innovation from Britain in China. And there's great space for that. And then the last thing would be localized, so that hybrid between brand Britain and kind of more China ready localized brands, and how can you find that line? And that for me maybe is the most exciting question that kind of keeps me up at night a bit. And it's tricky and it's moving and it's hard, and it does take a lot of yourself, you have to put quite a lot of yourself into China, just because it takes so, I'm sure that everyone resonates with that, right? Like it takes so much from you to make it work. So inevitably you put quite a lot of yourself into it. And it's quite unique as a market in that way. I've worked in different markets across the world in South Asia, and there's a pull to it that I've never quite found with any other market. So there'd be my three.
Yeah, I think that last one's really interesting, because you consciously have to put yourself into it, but then you subconsciously find yourself pulled into it because it is so different, and you really enjoy learning about how different it is, particularly at the moment where we can't travel back there. You just want to consume as much as you possibly can about what is going on, so that you really understand the culture and the people and the trends that are going on. So yeah, definitely that local element is very exciting. Louise, your top 3 pieces of advice for the brands considering to enter China?
I'm not sure I can get to 3, but I think, yeah, the last one, what you just said about going there. I mean, there is nothing more important than going there and taking lots of people with you who are important to the business to absorb as much information as possible and really see it for themselves, because you can say this stuff and you know, the frustration of the last 2 years, just not being able to get out there and not being able to have face-to-face conversations and not seeing things progressing. And that needs to be very regular. You can't think, oh, I'll go once a year, because things change every 12 weeks. Something's dramatically changed, hasn't it? And really understanding how does a consumer purchase is very important. So I think that's probably a key. Networking part of it, I mean, I said it earlier, but I just can't reiterate that enough, how valuable I have found that, talking to other people in other businesses, how they prioritize China and the opportunities. And there's some big numbers out there. I mean, it's terrifying, you know, how businesses who you wouldn't know in the UK even really existed, and they've got multi-million-pound businesses in China, and brands that have really established that as being central to their business, and having input from them and how have they done it and learnings, and their approach is, you know, really, really invaluable. I think, yeah, the Benji said it, you know, being able to flex is, you know, the speed at which they work, everything is different, and the brand that you are launching in China is going to be different from the brand that you've launched in any other market. And so you're going to have to flex on product, on brand imagery. I have struggled because our brand is quite understated in its sort of brown natural packaging, and the desire for gold and red is strong, and, you know, actually it jars quite a lot. But how do you find some compromise? So you are going to have to compromise some of your brand essence and find what your brand looks like in that market. So, and, you know, that flex approach is required across the board. You're going to have to flex in terms of your approach to the team, and, you know, you're going to incentivize them in a different way. So everything that you do is going to be different. So going into it with a kind of open mindset, saying, well, what am I going to learn? What are my requirements? I'm almost starting with a blank sheet of paper all over again with, you know, a product that I've got, but how is it going to appeal to this market? And being able to take that approach is really important. I mean, it's taken us 7 years to get into that mindset, I think. So we got there eventually, but it does take a shift to see success, I think.
Brilliant. these are all really great pieces of advice, and I hope the audience have benefited from them. But yeah, thank you so much, Louise and Benji, for being guests on my panel today and sharing all of these insights. I've certainly learned from you both again today, so hopefully the audience have too. I'm going to hand back to Chris.
Oh, thank you so much, Zarina. And I've got a few questions, if you don't mind. We've literally only got about 4 minutes left. But my first question for both Benji and Louise is, what level of brand equity do you think a company needs in the UK before you can leverage it in China? And how have you personally leveraged your UK brand equity to boost sales in China?
Shall I start with that?
Please, Benji.
I honestly, I don't think you need brand equity in the UK. I think you can build a brand in China without brand equity in the UK, and there are many examples of brands that have done that because they've got great product, they've got, you know, the content creative's great, the whole set's great. In terms of the latter part of your question, we did have some existing equity in China because of our positioning in the UK. And we did, I'd say initially, probably trade on brand Britain quite strongly. We tried to slap UK's number one over everything. So we definitely did it.
No, I know Vitabiotics, you've got some big brands. People have probably maybe not heard of Vitabiotics, but they'll have heard of things like Well Man, Well Woman. They've just seen the adverts on the TV. Yep. And I just wondered whether the strength of your UK brands assists in China. But from what you're saying, you can literally grow a brand just in China to start with. Yeah,
and I think it's a great point you make around the sub-brands. Yeah, very often it's what resonates, isn't it? Is it the umbrella or is it the sub-brand? Yeah, agreed. Both applicable.
And Louise, we talk about tea from China, but you're a British tea brand. Do you play on your Britishness of the brand at all?
No, we don't. I think there are brands that do that. So there's kind of, I think there's three categories. There's the domestic Chinese tea market. There are brands who have come in from the UK who are very much playing on, you know, we are a British brand, we're traditional. Teapigs is not that. It's quirky, it's different, it's playing more on sustainability and ethics and the quality of the product. So those are kind of the things that we haven't compromised on, and they are, you know, that's new China, and, you know, the partnerships that we're making are not throwing a Union Jack on the front of it. It's going beyond that, appealing to a slightly younger consumer.
So, I think that's really encouraging, because there are so many independent brands that have potentially grown from white label brands to becoming brands in their own right that may have some trepidation about whether they're ready. But from what you two are saying, they are ready.
Yeah.
So my next question, Louise, and this is one for you, having done it 3 times already, is your 4 to 5 month lead time into a festival like 11/11. We've literally only got a couple minutes left, but could you give us a really quick overview of what you do at each stage? What happens during that 4 to 5 months?
I think it's probably one for Benji more. He's got more experience of 11/11 than me.
Okay,
I'll throw that over to you, Benji, with your 3 stores.
Okay. So you would have your stock planning. So you'd have initial meetings where you say, what products are we going to focus on? And on what stores are we going to place them? What kind of volumes do you think we're going to do? And what are the creatives that are going to align with that? And then you need to look at what production runs you're doing for that stock, and how you're going to prioritize getting it there. Are you going to put it on a plane? Probably. Just to ensure or if there's a
probably this year anyway.
Probably this year, exactly. Yeah, right. It could be sat at a port for 2 months, and then it could be sat at Chinese port for another month. That could be an extra 3 months on your lead time. So it's a strange time to be doing global shipping, that's for sure. So yeah, you're probably going to put it on a plane, and that gives you the flexibility to make last minute changes if you need to around different products. And so that's the planning side, and that's where I think that kind of prioritization has to come in. Well, where's that coming from? For us, that's coming from UK stock, because China gets UK stock. Our big sellers, you're getting whatever you buy in Boots, Tesco, Holland and Barrett, Sainsbury's, you're a Superdrug, you're getting on our e-commerce flagship stores. So something has to give somewhere, and that can result in some tension. If you've got a big UK order and you're trying to ring fence stock for a big Chinese festival, but these are the questions that the brands have to ask themselves, and the priorities that they have to work on, and a lot of that comes down to production runs.
I'm really sorry. This has been fascinating, but we're literally out of time. I really want to thank you, Benji, and especially you, Louise, for coming on Tame Bay Live today. It's always fascinating to hear right from the retailer the challenges and the successes that they've had. And of course, Zarina, thank you for hosting this session and sharing your knowledge as well. We're going to be going into a networking break now, but I'd like to thank all three of our speakers on this stream this morning, Zarina, Louise and Benji, our day sponsor of Ask, and of course our title sponsor for Tame Bay Live, Amazon. And just a reminder that all of our speakers are registered on the Tame Bay Live platform, and all of our sponsors have got a showcase. So if you do want to find out more, drop past the Alibaba showcase and leave your contact details there. Grab hold of Zarina and make contact there. And if you're watching this on demand, then just literally go on LinkedIn and search for Zarina Kanji at Alibaba, and you'll be able to contact her for more information there. So thank you, Louise, Benji and Zarina. Thank you so much for your time.